Hi, my name is Joseph Arnold. Today I'd like to explore the question, does arts education matter in a world that's falling apart? There's so much strife and pain and suffering, so many gigantic problems that we face collectively. And sometimes, as arts educators, I'm a violin teacher myself. I've certainly wondered, and I know others of my colleagues wonder, does what I do really matter in the face of all this? And that can be a sobering question, and one that's a little bit at dissonance as well with another part of us that knows, like so deeply, somehow knows that, of course, what we do matters. We touch the lives of so many young people. And yet there is this dissonance that can come up for us. On the one hand, like one view of practicality says that arts is just something extra, something nice for rich kids to do, you know, and that we're basically their babysitters when we're teaching them, but it doesn't really matter for the larger grown-up problems of the world. And the other view, like something in our hearts that says, of course music matters, of course acting and dance and painting and all these things matter so deeply. So I'd like to explore that dissonance and give you my vision for how, like the very crucial role that we play, that you are already playing. So again, my name is Joseph Arnold. I'm a violinist, Alexander Technique teacher, and founder of the Soulforce Performing Arts School, or the Soulforce Arts Academy. I keep changing the names of it. And yeah, so I had a conversation recently with a new friend, and yeah, we were talking about some of these big issues and what's this big theme that I keep coming back to. What is our role as artists in this world? In chaos and in transition. We were talking about playing from the heart. We were talking about climate change. And yeah, there's this longing. I think many of us arts educators come to what we do with a longing for making a difference. The reason we didn't end up with a desk job, not to get too down on desk jobs, but the reason that I didn't get a desk job was because I knew that would be too small for me. I knew that I wanted to do something that really enlivened me, that really felt good here. Even if I couldn't put that into words back when I was making this choice. Yeah, and there can be a kind of despair that comes. One story of the world, the story of our civilization, the foundational myth of our civilization is that we are separate beings. That you and I are like little monads bouncing around in a lifeless universe. That the atoms that make up your body and the planets and the stars are all just lifeless bits randomly floating about in space. This is the foundational myth This is a story that we tell ourselves about how the world works. And you can see the effects of it everywhere. When living beings are considered to be made of lifeless bits, it's a lot easier to treat them very poorly, to abuse them. And we can see that happening everywhere in our civilization. This is why we're killing our planet. This is the core of what oppression is. And it pervades everything that we do. The story of separation. And just notice how that makes you feel, right? So if you want to make a difference within that story, you have to use even more force and control and effort. You have to garner vast resources and elements of control to make a change happen. And yet, it is that story that is killing all of us. So any effort of change, of making a difference, any effort of activism needs to come from a different place. Or else it'll just be perpetuating the same thing in different clothing. The thing is, we have no idea what is coming up for our future. In past generations, especially, like hunter-gatherer past, life didn't change for millions of years, basically, for our ancestors. And now, we're reaching this hyperbolic moment in history where it's called an event horizon, which is an aspect of a black hole where, you can see the area around a black hole, but you can't actually see the black hole itself because the gravity is so intense that it pulls the light back into it. And so where you can see that blackness, basically, that's the event horizon. And we're facing one of these right now. We have no idea what's going to come up in the next decade, even. And yet we have all these young people. All these young people who are going to be living through this. We're going to be living through this. And they're going to be really living in it. They're growing up in this. How do we prepare them for this? Are we going to give them the old tools? The tools that have gotten us into this mess in the first place? Probably not. That's probably not a good idea. But what are the new tools? What are the new ways of being? What do you give to somebody? How do you prepare somebody for something that is unimaginable? Well, these situations, there's cause for hope. We can prepare people for a situation like this, but it's going to look pretty much nothing like what has come before. Yeah. One thing that I believe is that we need to prepare our young people to be oriented towards life. No longer training them to fit themselves into the machine. If we, as arts educators, use the tools and techniques of the machine, then we're going to be perpetuating the machine. If our young students instead are oriented towards life, towards what is life-giving, towards what brings them alive, then that in itself is what transforms the machine into something that actually works for life. And so this is our task as teachers. I call it Soulforce teaching, Soulforce arts pedagogy. Because it's the centering of Soulforce. It's the centering of what brings us alive. Like, can that be the raison d'etre? The primary motivation for teaching is to get students to be in touch with what's alive inside them and help them express that. That way of teaching is part of a very different story than the story of separation that I was talking about earlier. It comes from a story of interbeing. Interbeing is a term from Thich Nhat Hanh, the Vietnamese monk, which, far from separation, even goes a step beyond interconnectedness. It says that your being and my being partake of each other. You and I inter-are. You and your audience inter-are. You and your student inter-are. What is it like to teach and play from that place? That's what I call Soulforce. Soulforce approach. When sending somebody into unknown territory, usually the things that they need the most are resilience and a compass. Right? Even a map sometimes it's not going to work so well. They need basic guidelines for how to survive. And a compass, right? Compass is what orients you. If you don't have a compass, it doesn't even matter if you have a map. You can't get oriented. Our compass is what brings us alive. Yeah, so in concrete terms, if you notice that your students just hate the material that you're having them learn, maybe it's time to reconsider letting them play something that brings them alive, even if it's music that you don't really like or music that you have some judgments about. Even the orientation of play and fun. Play and fun get a bad rap in our civilization. Trivial, childish, naive, irrelevant. But what is play and fun trivial in comparison to? The machine? What if play and fun were our way out of the labyrinth? Notice what comes up when you hear that. What if play and fun were our way out of the labyrinth, out of the machine? What if you were to base your teaching on play and fun? There's a concern maybe that your students wouldn't be successful, wouldn't master their craft, they wouldn't make it If making it involves fitting themselves into the machine better, then I don't effing care about making it. One of the things that keeps the world-destroying machine in place is people fitting themselves into it, squashing their gifts, squashing what keeps them alive, what brings them alive, in order to fit into the machine. You know, it's hard to imagine this machine continuing if there were more of us who just said, no, I'm going to do what brings me alive. Of course, that takes courage. And yet, here we are approaching this event horizon. We need to teach our students this courage. Right? We need to model this for them. This is our urgent task. Urgent. Yeah. On the one hand, when things get desperate, having an anchor into what brings you alive, what's actually fun, life-giving, soulful, heartful, is going to help you survive better. Oftentimes, what makes the difference for an addict between hitting bottom at losing your job or hitting bottom at dying after an overdose is having had some connection to love, some connection to life, whatever that might have been. And so this is something that we as arts educators absolutely can impart. And I believe the earth depends on us doing our part in this. It's up to you. It's actually up to you. It's actually up to you, not to people who we think have power. It's actually up to you. You make a difference. You know, the world-destroying machine touches our lives everywhere. Every single one of us, everywhere, every part of our lives. So that means that any of us can make a difference. And when you teach your students how to really play from the heart, when you make that the most important thing, you are giving them one of the most important experiences and tools that they'll have, that they'll need to navigate the event horizon. It's not a formula. It's not like it doesn't conform to our civilization's story of what practical means. But our story's civilization, our civilization story of what practical is killing the earth, destroys our souls. We can create the more beautiful world our hearts know is possible, as my favorite author Charles Eisenstein puts it. The more beautiful world our hearts know is possible. We can create that in every lesson that we teach. You know, even in the really difficult lessons. Especially in the difficult lessons. Yeah, like in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, Frodo brings the ring to the deepest, darkest place. And that's what creates the greatest transformation. All right, gonna wind things up here. So, the great tool that we can offer our students is an orientation to life. Another way of thinking about it is a certain kind of readiness. If you have no idea what's coming, you need a certain kind of readiness. In the Alexander Technique world, my teacher's teacher, Marge Barstow, said, "Ready for anything, prepared for nothing in particular." Ready for anything, prepared for nothing in particular. So just take that in. Notice what that does in your body. Right, so there's a kind of freedom and alertness that comes with that. And if they have an orientation towards what brings them alive, then this is what we're aiding them, we're aiding the world around them. What brings it all together for me is a quote by Howard Thurman, the mentor to Martin Luther King. He was known for saying, "Don't ask what the world needs. Instead, ask what brings you alive and go do that. Because what the world needs are people who've come alive." So don't doubt that what you do is vital. It might not look that way. It's not going to look flashy. You're not going to make billions of dollars. Probably. Maybe you will. I don't know. It's not going to make the news that you taught a lesson in this way. But, all those rubrics of success are not that relevant anymore. Training our students to win competitions or auditions for jobs, music jobs that are disappearing or stuff like that. That's not what the world needs, in my opinion. So it's a quiet thing that we do, but we can so profoundly impact our students' lives. You can think about the teachers that you've had who've touched your lives, right? They're really big influences. So don't doubt. Or when you do doubt, ask where that doubt is coming from. Ask what story of the world that doubt is coming from. Is it coming from the story of separation? Or is it coming from the story of interbeing? Okay, that's enough for now. Well, if you like this sort of stuff, if you feel inspired by this, I'd love to hear from you. You can go to josepharnold.com, shoot me a message, or you can follow this channel or page wherever you find this video. You can sign up for my newsletter at josepharnold.com. I send out blog posts and other videos, things like that, courses and whatnot, on a monthly newsletter. And I really want to know what's going on in your life. Like, what speaks to you in these videos? What longings are there that you have that want to be spoken? And Yeah, those are really important longings. Those are the voices to listen to as you navigate this event horizon. Yeah. Okay. I'll see you next time.